The wrong key, the wrong floor, the wrong door. I stumbled into the penthouse suite and my world stopped. Because he looked up and his eyes were the kind that never let anything go. My heels were killing me. That's the only thing I could think about as the elevator dinged open on the penthouse floor. I, Mia, was supposed to be in room 1208, but the hotel manager, flustered by the chaos of the art gala downstairs, had pressed a new keycard into my hand. An upgrade, Ms. James, for your trouble. I was too tired to argue, too tired to even look at the new number. I just wanted a bath. I pushed the heavy, dark wood door open. "Hello?" I called out, expecting an empty, opulent suite. The room wasn't empty. It was vast, dark, and silent, lit only by the sprawling city lights beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. The air was thick with the scent of expensive whiskey and sandalwood, and in a high-backed chair facing the window, a man sat in silhouette. He didn't turn, but the air cracked with tension. I'm so sorry," I stammered, my hand flying to my mouth. "The front desk, they gave me this key. They said—" My voice died. Two other men, who I hadn't even seen, materialized from the shadows near the bar. They were dressed in impeccable black suits, their faces like stone. But it was the man in the chair who held all the power. He slowly, deliberately turned his head. Even in the dim light, he was devastating. Sharp, sculpted features, dark hair swept back from his forehead, and eyes so dark they seemed to drink the light in the room. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't even angry. He looked amused. He lifted one elegant hand. The two bodyguards stopped, their hands hovering inside their jackets. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird in a cage. This wasn't a banker, this wasn't a CEO, this was danger. When was the last time a simple mistake changed your entire life? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. He rose from the chair, not quickly, but with a fluid, predatory grace that sent a shiver straight down my spine. He was tall. He crossed the space between us, stopping just a foot away. I had to crane my neck to look up at him. I could feel the heat radiating from his body. His voice was a low, velvety rumble. "You opened the wrong door, Agassi." I couldn't breathe. I just shook my head, the useless keycard still clutched in my hand. He reached out, not to touch me, but to gently take the key from my trembling fingers. His fingertips brushed my palm. A jolt of electricity, cold and hot all at once. He studied the key, then looked back at me, a tiny, dangerous smirk playing on his lips. "Room 1208, but you are here." He took a step closer. "And now," he whispered, his voice wrapping around me, "you are mine." The words hung in the air, a silken, terrifying trap. "Now you are mine." I let out a laugh, but it came out strained, a high-pitched, nervous sound. "Look, I don't know who you think I am, but you're mistaken. It was an accident. I'll go." I tried to step back to pivot toward the door. It was only 10 feet away. Lee Min-sung didn't move a muscle, yet he was everywhere. His presence filled the room. He just watched me, that predator's amusement still in his eyes. "You will go nowhere." "Please," I whispered, my voice trembling now. "This is a misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding." He tilted his head, his gaze sweeping over me from the beaded strap of my gala dress to my shaking hands. It wasn't a leer, it was an appraisal, like he was examining a piece of art he'd just acquired. "You saw this room. You saw me. In my world, Agassi, there are no happy accidents, only consequences." I flinched. "I won't say anything. I didn't see anything. Just let me go. I'm just an artist. I'm here for the gala. I don't know you." "You are Mia James," he stated. It wasn't a question. "You are C6, you paint with oils. You prefer the color blue, and you are terrified." My blood ran cold. He knew me. "How?" "I know everyone who enters this hotel," he said, stepping so close I could see the single, tiny mole beneath his left eye. I was forced to look up, trapped between his gaze and the sheer size of his bodyguards. The sandalwood scent was overwhelming, intoxicating. My heart wasn't just hammering, it was trying to escape my chest. I took a sharp breath, trying to find my courage. "You can't just keep me." "I can." His voice dropped, losing its amused edge and hardening into steel. "I am Lee Min-sung, and what I can, I do." He turned his back to me, a clear dismissal. He walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. My legs finally worked. I lunged for the door. I didn't even make it 2 steps before the bodyguards crossed in front of me, blocking the path. The sound, sharp and final, echoed behind me. Click. I spun around. Min Sung hadn't moved. He was watching my reflection in the glass. He lifted a hand and spoke in Korean to his men. Gunyui moden gus ul gajawa. Bring everything of hers. He turned his head, his dark eyes locking onto mine in the reflection. Your room, 1208. It is no longer yours. Your things will be brought here. You will stay where I can see you. The hotel room, once a symbol of luxury, had just become a cage. This is insane, I snapped, my voice shaking with a pathetic mix of terror and anger. You can't just abduct me. I'm an American citizen. People know I'm here. My gallery knows. Lee Min Sung merely lifted an eyebrow. He was back in his chair by the window, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He hadn't touched it. He just held it, the amber liquid catching the light. Your gallery, he said, his voice a bored monotone, believes you are so inspired by your new complimentary penthouse suite that you have turned off your phone to focus on your art. They were very understanding. Ice water sluiced through my veins. You called them? Already? I am thorough. My own phone. I fumbled for the small clutch purse I still had slung over my shoulder. It was gone. I'd dropped it where? It didn't matter. One of his stone-faced men was probably wiping it clean as we spoke. What do you want? I demanded, planting my feet. If I was going to be a prisoner, I wouldn't be a cowering one. Money? I don't have any. I'm an artist, not whatever you are. This finally brought a reaction. His eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in calculation. He stood up again, and my stupid, traitorous body tensed, half in fear, half in something else. This close, I could see the fine texture of his white shirt, the way it stretched across his shoulders. What I am, he said, his voice dangerously soft, is a man who values privacy. And you, Mia James, you saw my face. You saw my men. You stumbled into a meeting you should not have. I didn't see anything, I cried. Just you and your men. You weren't, I don't know, doing Mafia stuff. He smiled. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. Mafia stuff. He savored the words as if they were a new flavor. You watch too many movies. He took a step toward me. I took an involuntary step back, hitting the cold marble of the bar. Trapped. He didn't touch me. He just leaned in, close enough for me to see the individual black lashes framing his dark eyes. I don't need money. I want silence. And until I am sure of yours, you are a liability. A beautiful, loud, terrified liability. His gaze dropped to my mouth. My breath hitched. My entire body went rigid. This man was a monster. He was my captor. So why was my skin tingling? Why was I noticing the sharp, clean scent of his soap under the sandalwood and whiskey? The heavy wooden door opened. Two of his men wheeled in my luggage. My entire life packed into 2 suitcases, now delivered to my cage. Unpack, Min Sung ordered, stepping away. The spell was broken. Make yourself comfortable. You will be here for some time. The suite was massive, all glass and cold marble, but it felt like a shoebox with him in it. For hours, I sat on a plush, cream-colored sofa that probably cost more than my apartment while he worked. Lee Min Sung was at a large mahogany desk, his back to me. He took call after call, his voice a low, rhythmic stream of Korean. It was sharp, clipped, and utterly commanding. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The authority was absolute. His bodyguards were posted outside the suite, but he was the most dangerous thing in the room. I was his prisoner, but he was ignoring me. It was a strange kind of torture, making me feel insignificant and, at the same time, hyper-aware of his every move. Finally, thirst won out over fear. I needed water. The kitchen area was on the other side of the room, requiring me to walk directly past his desk. I stood, my legs stiff. I moved silently, my bare feet padding on the thick rug. He stopped talking mid-sentence. I froze. Slowly he swiveled in his chair, his dark eyes pinning me. He muted his call. Do you need something? He asked, his voice smooth. Water, I said, my voice coming out as a croak. He gestured to the kitchen. My home is yours, he said, the irony thick. For now. I hurried to the kitchen, my back prickling, entirely aware of his gaze on me. I grabbed a bottle of water from the massive stainless steel fridge. As I turned, my hand shaking, I let out a sharp yap. He was right there. I hadn't heard him move. I stumbled back, my shoulders hitting the cold metal of the fridge. My heart leaped into my throat. He hadn't moved to threaten me. He was just there, closer than he had any right to be. He reached past me, his arm brushing my shoulder, to open a cabinet above my head. His body heat enveloped me, the scent of sandalwood, and something uniquely him filling my lungs. I was trapped between the fridge and his body. "Tea," he murmured, his voice a low vibration that I felt in my bones. He pulled down a small wooden box. He was so close I could see the faint stubble on his jaw, the way his dark lashes cast shadows on his cheekbones. My entire body was a live wire, screaming danger at the top of its lungs, but another traitorous part of me was just aware of the strength in his arm, the breadth of his chest, the intensity of his gaze as it dropped to my throat, where my pulse was visibly hammering. "You should not be so afraid," he whispered, his breath warm against my temple. I found my voice. "You're the one who's keeping me here." He leaned back and the air rushed back into my lungs. He held my gaze, his expression unreadable. "I am, but I am also the only man in this city who can keep you safe from what you saw." He turned and walked away. "Sleep," he ordered. "Tomorrow you will be accompanying me." "Accompanying you? Where?" I called after him, clutching the water bottle. He paused at the door to his bedroom. "You are a liability. Tomorrow you become an asset. Or you become a problem I have to solve." He didn't give me a choice. A sleek black dress, far more expensive than anything I owned, was laid out for me. "You will be silent. You will be beautiful. You will be mine," he'd instructed, his voice leaving no room for argument. Now I was standing in a private, glass-walled dining room, high above a restaurant I could never afford. Lee Min-sung was across the table, not with me, but with 3 older, grim-faced Korean men. I was the centerpiece, the prop. His men, including the 2 from the penthouse, stood at the exits. I felt like a painted doll, and my fear had chilled into a quiet, simmering rage. I was sipping water, my hands clasped in my lap, when the doors to the private room slid open. A new man entered. He was older, with a predatory smile and eyes like chips of ice. He wasn't one of Min-sung's. The entire room went still. The air turned to glass. Min-sung didn't stand, but his body went rigid. "Mr. Kwan," he said, his voice a block of ice. Mr. Kwan ignored him. His eyes landed on me. He walked straight to my chair, his gaze slimy and appraising. "And who," he said, his English perfect, "is this lovely little bird? The Kangpei are acquiring new tastes, I see." I recoiled, my chair scraping the floor. Before I could even blink, Min-sung was out of his chair. He moved with that same lethal, fluid grace, but there was no amusement in his eyes now. There was only death. He didn't touch Mr. Kwan. He didn't have to. He simply placed his hand on the back of my chair, his body shielding me. His thumb brushed the bare skin of my shoulder. It was a brand. "She is with me," Min-sung said, the words a quiet promise of violence. Mr. Kwan chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "So protective. It is not your way, Min-sung. Be careful. Pretty things are so easy to break." He backed away, gave a mock bow to the table, and left. The room was silent. I was shaking, not from fear of Mr. Kwan, but from the jolt of Min-sung's touch. He hadn't just claimed me, he had defended me. His hand was still on my chair, his knuckles white. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt protected by the very person you were afraid of? It's a confusing, terrifying place to be. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. He looked at me, his dark eyes searching mine. The mask was back, but I'd seen the crack. I was no longer just a liability. I was a target. And in his dangerous world, that made me his to protect. The ride back to the penthouse was silent, a cocoon of humming engine and unread tension. His bodyguards were in a separate car. We were alone, and the air was so thick I could barely breathe. When the elevator doors opened to the suite, I stormed out. I spun on him, my hands balled into fists. "You put me on display! You used me as a shield or a trophy. And that man, he thought he could touch what was mine." Min-sung cut me off, his voice flat. He was shrugging out of his suit jacket, his movements weary. "I am not yours," I yelled, my voice cracking. "I'm not a thing, Min-sung. I am a person, and I am terrified, and you defended me. Why?" He threw his jacket onto the chair he'd been sitting in when I first saw him. He finally turned to me, his white shirt looking stark in the dim light. The mask was gone. His eyes were dark with something I couldn't name. Not anger, but a deep, unsettling exhaustion. "I do not know," he said, and the honesty of it hit me harder than a lie would have. He walked toward me. I didn't back away. I was too tired to run, too angry to cower. He stopped just inches away. He didn't reach for me. He just looked at me, his gaze tracing my features as if trying to memorize them. "You are shaking," he observed, his voice a low rumble. "I wonder." "Why?" I retorted, though the fight was draining out of me, leaving only a cold dread. "He will come for you," Min Sung said, his voice soft. "Quan, he saw that He saw. He will try to use you to break me." "Then let me go," I whispered, the plea tearing from my throat. "Let me go and I'll disappear. I'll never tell anyone." "It is too late for that." He lifted a hand and I flinched. He paused, his hand hovering in the air between us. Then, slowly, as if approaching a skittish animal, he brushed his thumb over my cheekbone. His touch was shockingly gentle, a calloused, warm jolt against my cold skin. "When I saw him look at you," he said, his voice rough, "I wanted to end him. Not for business. Not for pride." He met my eyes. "For you." My breath hitched. He was confessing something. He was admitting a weakness. And then his gaze dropped to my lips. The air between us was electric, charged with fear and an impossible, magnetic pull. "You," he whispered, "are the most dangerous thing that has ever happened to me, Mia James." He leaned in, closing the small distance between us. His other hand found my waist, pulling me against him with a possessive, desperate strength. His kiss wasn't gentle. It was a claim. It was a raw, bruising confession of every bit of tension that had been building since I'd stumbled through his door. It tasted of whiskey, sandalwood, and absolute power. And the most terrifying part? I didn't pull away. The kiss ended, but the charge remained. I was pressed against him, my hands on his chest, my heart hammering a rhythm that was equal parts terror and a wild, undeniable desire. He was breathing hard, his forehead resting against mine, his dark eyes closed as if he was fighting a war with himself. He had claimed me, and I had let him. The beep click of the penthouse door sliding open shattered the moment. We sprang apart. I stumbled back, my lips still tingling, my face flushed. A woman stood in the entryway. She was tall, impossibly elegant, with a sheet of straight black hair and a red dress that screamed money and power. She didn't look surprised. She looked furious. Her cold eyes raked over me, my simple dress, my bare feet, my kiss-swollen mouth, with pure disdain. Then she looked at Min Sung. "Min Sung, Oppa?" she said, her voice a sharp, polished blade. "I let myself in. I see you are occupied." Oppa. The words, so intimate, so familiar, hit me like a slap. Min Sung's entire demeanor shifted. The vulnerability I'd seen, the raw emotion, it vanished. The ice-cold boss was back. His face was a mask of unreadable steel. He didn't look at me. He didn't explain. "Hyejin," he said, his voice flat. "You should not be here." "Clearly," she scoffed, walking into the room all ownership and arrogance. "This is your new pet? I thought she was just a witness. You're messing with her." My blood ran cold. Just a witness. Humiliation burned up my throat, hot and acidic. The kiss, his words, "For you." It was all a lie. A game. He was just a monster, and I was just a toy he'd decided to play with. I couldn't speak. I felt naked, stupid, and utterly broken. "Mia," Min Sung said, his voice hard. He still wasn't looking at me. He was watching Hyejin. "Don't," I whispered, my voice breaking. I took a step back, wrapping my arms around myself. "Don't say my name. I get it. I was just a problem you had to solve, right? Was this part of the solution?" He finally turned his head, his dark eyes flashing. "That is not what this is." "Then what is it?" Hyejin demanded, crossing her arms. He looked between us, two women on opposite sides of his world. And he said nothing. That silence was the real betrayal. It was the confirmation. I meant nothing. I was his property, his prisoner, and, for a moment, his distraction. "Go to your room," he ordered me, his voice devoid of all the warmth he'd shown me moments before. I flinched as if he'd struck me. "Yes, boss," I spat, the word dripping with all my broken pride and shame. I turned and ran, not to the guest room, but to the front door. I didn't care about his men, I didn't care about Mr. Quan. I yanked the door open and slammed it shut behind me, the sound echoing the shattering of my heart. I didn't get far. I burst out of the penthouse, my bare feet slapping against the plush carpet of the exclusive hallway. I was sobbing, a raw, ugly sound that was torn from my chest. I felt like the world's biggest fool. I'd fallen for the oldest trick, a pretty cage and a handsome monster. I jabbed the elevator button over and over, my palms stinging. Come on, come on. Mia. My blood turned to ice. It wasn't one of the guards. I spun around. Lee Min-sung stood at the end of the hall by the open door of the penthouse. Hyejin was gone. He was alone, his chest heaving. He had run after me. Leave me alone, I spat, my voice thick with tears. Go back to your business arrangement. She is gone. I don't care, I yelled, just as the elevator dinged and the doors slid open. I lunged inside, jabbing the button for the lobby. The doors were closing. A hand shot between them, forcing them back open. He stepped inside and the doors slid shut, encasing us in the small gold and mahogany box. I pressed myself into the farthest corner, as far from him as I could get. Get out. You cannot go down there, he said, his voice a low, rough growl. Watch me. I'd rather take my chances with Kwon. At least he's honest about what he wants. You just play games. Was I fun, Min-sung? Was I a fun witness to mess with? The words hit him. I saw his shoulders tense. He didn't answer. Instead, he slammed his hand against the emergency stop button. The elevator jolted, shuddered, and came to a dead halt between floors. The sudden silence was deafening. What are you doing? I shrieked, a new wave of panic rising. He turned on me. In 2 strides, he crossed the small space, bracing his hands on the wall on either side of my head. I was quiet. His face was inches from mine, his dark eyes frantic, his mask completely gone. She is nothing, he growled. She is a past I am tied to, a duty. She is not this. And what is this? I whispered, my anger trembling. This, he said, his voice cracking, is you. In my penthouse. In my head. Making me feel anything. Kwon will not just break you, Mia. He will destroy you to hurt me. I cannot let that happen. Why? I cried, my own tears blurring his face. Because I'm your property? No, he roared, and the word vibrated through the small space. He leaned his forehead against the wall next to my head, his eyes squeezed shut. Because you are the first thing I have ever wanted to protect. Even from myself. He looked at me, his gaze raw, desperate and stripped of all his power. Do not run from me, Mia, because I will always come after you. Run and you are prey. Stay and you are mine to defend. He had made his choice, and now, trapped in a steel box with the most dangerous man I'd ever met, I had to make mine. The emergency stoplight cast a faint reddish glow over his face, highlighting the desperation I'd never believed he was capable of. He was a mafia boss, a monster, but he was also just a man laid bare in a stalled elevator. You're a fool if you think you can protect me, I whispered, my voice trembling. Kwon, Hyejin, your entire world, it's death. It's darkness. Then be my light, he said, his voice raw. He didn't move, but his eyes pleaded. I am surrounded by darkness, Mia. I have been my entire life. When you stumbled into that room, it was the first time I saw something that wasn't part of it. Something I didn't want to control. I wanted to just have. My heart ached. He was right. I couldn't run. Kwon would find me, and this man, this terrifying, broken man, he wouldn't just follow, he'd tear the world apart to find me. Slowly, my hands, which had been pressed against the cold wall, found his chest. I felt his heart hammering under my palms just as frantically as my own. This is insane, I breathed. Love is, he replied, his voice hoarse. He watched me, giving me all the power. I was the one who leaned in. I was the one who made the choice. I pressed my lips to his, and this kiss wasn't a claim or a capture. It was an answer. It was a surrender from both of us. He let out a breath he'd been holding, and his arms wrapped around me, pulling me away from the wall and into him, into his protection. He reached over my head and pressed the button. The elevator hummed back to life, and we started to ascend, back to the penthouse. Back to the cage. But when the doors opened and we stepped back into the suite, it didn't feel like a cage anymore. He led me to the sofa, his hand never leaving mine. He sat me down, his eyes scanning my face. He echoed his words from that first night, his voice thick with a new meaning. You opened the wrong door, Agassi. I looked up at him, my eyes clear. Did I? A slow smile, the first real one I'd ever seen, touched his lips. He knelt in front of me, taking both my hands in his. I told you, now you are mine. It was a threat, an order. He brought my hands to his lips, kissing my knuckles. Let me say it again. He looked up, his dark eyes holding all the promises of a dangerous future, but a future with him. Now you are mine, Mia James, and I am yours. Do you believe a single mistake, one wrong turn, can lead you to exactly where you were meant to be? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.